Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Carpool Queen is here as she has made her way through traffic. How was it this morning?
It was easy. I guess you
She's a pro
on
now.
Fall break and maybe someone else is on fall break.
She's just a pro.
I am a pro.
That's what it
I am
is.
definitely a carpool pro, but traffic
Katie
is
Fredette.
easy. I came all the way downtown to Government Street and just sailed the whole way. Yeah, something's up.
Traffic wasn't bad for the LSU game either.
Hey, what's happening?
I mean, everybody left it
I left when everybody
that's
else
why.
left.
You talking about on the way out or on the way in?
The way out.
on the way out. It was
Oh, the way
clear.
in, I had an Uber driver from New Orleans that was not with it. He was like, we ain't sitting in this shit. And he just started, he already had tire marks on the side of his car. I was like, this is the guy I need. Get me to this
Tire
game.
marks on the side of his car.
That's
Yeah,
my
like
type of guy.
somebody, he'd already gotten in a little bit of a dust up.
Speaking of my type of guy, babyface Billy. Wonder how we're looking in season here.
no
Now,
beard?
past the honeymoon period,
Beard.
well into the
Beard.
married
Beard.
state. Let's see.
got
Let's
a
see what he
stash
looks
by
like
now.
here now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still baby
All right,
face.
buddy.
I like it though.
How we doing?
Is that a little
I
shadow
like
there?
clean shaven.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
I'm going to change up the topic from the first hour. Why is Harold Perkins not playing?
I think he's a guy you've got to find ways to just get on the field no matter what. I understand the reasoning that Brian Kelly gave on Monday. I just think with his athleticism, that's something that this defense needs, especially to, Tennessee's a good offensive football team, don't get me wrong, but you got to have athletes out there that are on the level of some of these other SEC teams. And against Florida, against Ole Miss, you're going to see athletes all over the place that can make plays. They need Harold Perkins out there. And, Brian Kelly said he's going to play more this week. They got to get him out there.
Bill, you've done this for a long time, and you're a great resource because you've started covering these guys when they're in high school. How good is Perkins?
I really think, athletically, he has all the traits of being somebody who could be a first-round pick. And to see him get on the field right away shows that. Because when he came in at 200 pounds. He didn't come in as somebody who was already yoked up and had been lifting, a really incredible amount and just was physically ready to go. He worked at it. He had to get with the nutrition staff and really develop that side of things for himself. And he did that over the summer, and that's why he was able to step in right away and play. He bought in. I think it's still a learning thing for him in a lot of different ways. And I think that's why they kind of moved him outside and said, go get after the quarterback, rush the passer, and play on the edge a little bit more. But you see his pure athleticism that allows him to make plays, drop in coverage. That's just what you want out of a linebacker in today's day and age. I think his future is really, really bright. Once they move him back to that middle linebacker spot in the long term, I think he'll develop those other areas of his game. And he needs to, continue to work on reading his keys and doing all those things. And he'll have to run the defense, of course. But he's so talented. They had to get him on the field in some capacity right away. And they did that.
They lost their left side of the offensive line. Campbell, well before the kickoff on Friday night. And then Dellinger went down in the first half. Who do you expect to go on Saturday in those spots?
I think you've got to look at Miles Frazier in one of those situations. I think he's somebody that, has the length, has the size to do it. I think Emory Jones has played well on the right side, so you don't want to necessarily slide him over to the left and kind of really jumble up your whole look on the offensive line. There are going to be guys that they're going to have to rotate in. It's going to be a process. I think the left guard spot especially is going to be something that is really up in the air. They could try a bunch of different guys there, quite honestly.
Billy, when you look at this matchup between Florida and LSU, this is one that's obviously been a rival for a while now. What does the mix of Kelly and Napier add to it?
It's a really interesting, dynamic between these two coaches. They're two pretty different, people in general. Billy obviously has ties to Louisiana. He's, been on Nick Saban's staff. He's been kind of all over. Brian Kelly has certainly been, a head coach for a long, long time now, and is, very much has that political background. Billy's just kind of a football coach. He was asked about the LSU job this week, and he just said, "Look, I'm not trying to get into that." He kind of said it in a way that you would expect Billy to kind of handle it. So I think it's just a very interesting dynamic, and both have had their positives. with the way they've started their tenures, and both have also had, their moments where they've not a growing pain situation because both have been head coaches, but both have maybe wanted things to go a little differently, whether it be recruiting here and there, whether it be just how the games have gone this season. But I think both are really, really good fits for where they ended up, and I think they're going to be battling it out for a while now.
Brian Kelly had a lot of positive things to say about Walker Howard, and not a lot of positive things to say. You could tell his feelings were very positive in his short remarks on Howard. Billy, I've heard from some pretty trusted sources within LSU's program that as early as week 2, they were noticing that Howard's probably the best quarterback in the program already. What do you expect of the timeline on Howard, and what are you hearing of him behind the scenes?
I think with Walker, they would like to redshirt him. I think in the end, that's what you want to do. You don't want to put him in a situation that could stunt his growth. We talked about the offensive line being down 2 starters on the left side. Those aren't good situations for a guy to cut his teeth and get experience in, just because of where the offense is as well. That being said, he's got some arm talent. He's got a lot of the tools that you want. It looks like he's going to have a bright future. Do they eventually make the move to him at some point if things continue to go south? I'm not so sure they're ready to do this. Brian Kelly talks about it being a process, it being something where they want to, build this, and it's going to take time. But does that involve a quarterback change? I'm not so sure. Garrett Nussmeier hasn't seen the field much. Played against Auburn a little bit, but he's somebody that you would think if they felt good enough about him, he would have gotten some opportunities, against Tennessee, which for whatever reason they hadn't. So I think you at some point need to get Walker Howard some time, but I think the situation needs to be best for him and his long-term development, quite honestly.
Billy, what is recruiting like right now in season? We saw a 5-star quarterback from California come down for an official a couple of weeks back in Sayin. Where is LSU as far as just the recruiting calendar moves right now?
Yeah, the 2023 class they're kind of shooting for the moon, and also making some, in-season evaluations. They've got top targets in that 2023 class, like Javian Toviano, the 4-star defensive back out of Texas, Nicholas Harbor, the 5-star athlete out of the DMV. They've got some other top prospects that they're kind of poking around on, trying to round out this class. And then they're also looking in Louisiana at some prospects to, extend offers to. And then we've seen some senior evals go out. They offered Missouri 4-star tight end commit Brett Norfleet. They offered Kamarian Pipkitten out of North Crowley, a Vanderbilt commit, who's a really promising prospect on the rise as a senior. And then Arian Carter, a 4-star linebacker out of Tennessee, who has just about offers from everybody, but has been committed to Memphis. Those are the type of guys they're working on in the class of 2023. You mentioned the 5-star quarterback, Julian Sayin. He's going to visit Alabama in a couple weeks. He said he's probably a couple months out from a decision. If he continues to drag things on, what does that say about where things stand with LSU? I think the staff is going to have to just continue to keep the press on because, he's somebody that if you could just get him on board, most of the time with quarterbacks, they usually stay firm. But he's been high on LSU, and they've recruited him really hard. And he came for a visit a couple weeks ago. Georgia, it looks like it's kind of not as much in the picture as it once was, maybe over the summer. LSU needs to get Julian Sayin on board. He's somebody out of Carlsbad that had a terrific sophomore year, is having a good junior year right now. Still very, very talented. He would be a really nice centerpiece to kind of start building out that 2024 class even more so. They've already got some quality commits on board in that class. Right now, it's a lot of just laying that groundwork, trying to get those guys on board in the class of 2024 and kind of lined up for official visits in the summer. And those guys are coming in for games at a really nice clip as well.
I know that you just ran a feature on a defensive back out of 2024. Obviously, that is a position of high concern and need in the offseason. Billy, what are some targets here that we're starting to see LSU zero in on?
Yeah, I think this is a class that's already really good in the secondary for the class of 2024. You've got Maurice Williams, a really nice looking safety, who's somebody who could end up probably being a little bit more of a box guy. He's the highest rated commit in the class of 2024. They also have Zion Ferguson out of Grayson. So that Grayson program has been really, really good to LSU so far. I think they're starting to cast, a national net. They had Desmond Ricks on campus. That was a big one. They had Ellis Robinson on campus with him. That was a big one. Those are both top 10 prospects, not only at their positions, but in the country. They're the number 1 and number 2 corners nationally next cycle. So they're, again, kind of laying the groundwork. They've had some really quality visitors on campus in 2023, but especially, we talked about in the spring that the staff having to kind of play some catch up here and build those relationships in some cases rather quickly. Well, the class of 2024, a lot of these guys have now been on campus 2 or 3 times. So that's what you want leading into the spring, is to already have relationships built. One prospect that I really like where LSU stands early on for is Kobe Black, a top 50 overall prospect, number 4 corner nationally. He's out of the state of Texas. His brother Corey plays for Oklahoma State. But LSU is a school he's really enamored with. Texas, Oklahoma State, of course, Oklahoma, plenty of others will be in the mix there. He's a really, really good looking prospect in the secondary, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got down for a visit soon.
Tiger Stadium, obviously, not as friendly on 11 o'clock a.m. kickoffs to recruits, but how do we see these visitor lists shaking up as game weekends are coming and going? What do we expect with Ole Miss now, 2:30 kickoff, not this Saturday, but next at LSU?
Yeah, I think that's kind of your sweet spot. I think for guys that are coming way out of state, you want a night kick. That allows them to, if they play on Friday night, fly in. If they've got to connect to Baton Rouge, or if they've got to connect to New Orleans, or whatever, if they're coming from coast to coast, that's the helpful one. But 2:30 is really solid. That allows guys to land and kind of come in, or basically kind of have a 6-hour driving radius of what's kind of reasonable to get up and get going for some of these games that are early, like a 2:30. I think it really helps, and I think the way Ole Miss is playing, helps as well. This is has the potential to be a fun matchup. The way LSU defense played against Tennessee, not what they wanted. Obviously, they got put behind the 8 ball pretty quickly with some mistakes. We'll see if they can bounce back against Florida. That'll kind of tell the tale with where things are trending for the season in reality. But you've still got a 2:30 kick, middle of October, late-ish October for Ole Miss. That's pretty solid. So I think you're going to see this visitor list continue to show really well. I do know Dejan Womack, who is in 5-star range for us, is planning to come down for that game. He wants to bring his teammate and 2024 4-star quarterback Michael Van Buren down with him as well. So there will be a lot of really quality prospects that weekend on campus, and it's trending to be a weekend where especially I think Jamar Cain's defensive line class is going to show up in a big way and catch the game and enjoy a 2:30 kick at Tiger Stadium.
Good to see you, Bill. Thank you for the information.
Great to see you guys. Anytime. Thanks for having
me. Checking in from On3 this morning. Make sure to hit him up over there at on3.com and check out at Billy Embody on Twitter, at Billy Embody. That conversation brought to you by our friends over at Edward Jones. Daniel Newman, daniel.newman at edwardjones.com. Get in touch with our friend over there, especially if you work in the industrial space, if you work out within the plants and need some advice on what you need to do from a finance standpoint, what you need to do with your 401k, some of your investment strategies you may be thinking about. Get in touch with Daniel. Daniel.Newman at edwardjones.com. Daniel.Newman at edwardjones.com. Located in Central, across from Stabs. Stop in and see him. What's up?
Oh, I was just going to say I'm surprised Billy didn't know that Pulling is in charge of recruiting that defensive line class, not Jamar Cain.
Yeah, right.
I thought he would know that inside information.
That's right. Daniel.Newman at edwardjones.com. We will be back here with more of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.